Welcome aboard the Kerbal Space Podcast. All things Kerbal, all things space. I'm your host, N9, and...
Mark. And...
Linx.
Yep, we have
Hi,
our
Linx.
first guest.
Hey guys. It's very nice to be here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very nice to have you on.
Thank you.
Games Linx, if you are aware, or if you are unaware, I suppose this is just be if you're unaware, is a KSP modder and community member and content creator that just has hilarious videos and is well known for making a lot of different planet packs in the game, at least more than 2. I don't remember some of the older ones, as well as the mod Parallax, which is just KSP wizardry. Yeah, that's pretty much. We'll have links in the description below. But yeah, is there anything else that that people would maybe know you from that I maybe don't know?
So I have a habit of collecting all the Infinity Stones and
Right.
just doing one of everything. But
Right.
no, I think you've summed it up quite well. We don't have to mention the other 2 planet packs. They weren't great.
All right, well, sounds good. So the reason we have you on is, of course, today's episode is called Destinations. It's all about, well, like interstellar destinations, new places, new planets and stuff. And that fits super well with the planet packs that you have made. So
Of course.
Yeah, pretty much just like what it'll be like when we get out to the new planets that we're going to have in KSP2 and stuff we're going to be able to do. Before we get into all of that, there was a comment on the last YouTube video from Otis Czel, which pretty much was basically shedding light on some things that we speculated in the last episode. There were some things that was information that we were like speculating about, but it is like well known and has been answered by KSP devs and stuff. First of all, that there won't be like in the base game faster than light travel. It'll be like scientifically viable to like near future to far future technology, but probably no warp drives and stuff. But it doesn't matter because people will definitely mod that into the game, right? I can only imagine light, like faster than light speed, will be modded very early on.
If people can find a reason to add faster than light stuff, faster than light, sorry, not life, light stuff, then I assume in regular KSP, where there's not a whole bunch of interstellar, mods, people just get tired of just going relatively short distance.
Right.
I guess. Because we have it for stock KSP, we have it for the few interstellar mods.
There is a warp mod, isn't there, already for KSP1? That's going to leak its way into KSP2, no doubt. Yeah. And you'll actually have stars to go to.
Even if it's just a case of the first, like, I know something that I did very early on was when I was a young kid. I started playing Kerbal at like 14, 15. Yeah. So my immature mind, I was like, well, I feel kind of slow. So I just opened up a config, put a few zeros on the end, and I suppose that was my first mod.
Was that your first? I actually had that question for you. I wanted to know what your first mod was, and now we know.
Yeah,
just add some zeros.
And knowing's half the battle.
Yep. It's just a case of, what can I change? What's easy to change, first of all? And I was like, well, I want faster engines. Put a few zeros on the end, and I think my craft exploded the first time because of the atmosphere. But
right,
yeah. To be
it went fast.
Yeah, at just 1-0 it would go fast. So yeah, I can expect us to be doing the same thing in the next game.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I hope it's just as easy.
People who play Kerbal Space Program usually have the same mindset.
Yeah. Just, mod it till it breaks.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a design philosophy that won't be changing.
No, that won't be changing at all. All right, to more things that we speculated on about the 2 rendered models of celestial bodies. That's still going to be a thing. where I was speculating on like things like losing polygons like progressively as you zoom further away. I think it's just going to be a close up high def, and then like when you're further away, it's a less performance heavy render of the planet, which is something we see in KSP1, and I think they're going to be doing it even better because they probably have a lot more celestial bodies to deal with. But yeah, so something that also was mentioned about time warp, it wasn't exactly about what we were talking about, but the ability to time warp under acceleration while burning an engine, that is definitely confirmed. We know that for sure. So it allows like brachistochrome trajectories, the words are hard, but also probably on a smaller scale, like ion engines, or if you just have way too much fuel for your engine and it's like a 30-minute burn, you could probably time warp through that, I think, with the next game. I think that's confirmed.
I think so, yeah.
I think we saw that in the last video they put out, didn't we?
I believe so. There's a lot of cool things you can do with that. Like, there's a lot of things like in real life. There have been missions to the moon where it takes there's 2-hour-long burns with these tiny spacecraft, and that is something that you could much more accessibly do in the new game, which is cool. But what we were talking about last episode was if there was going to be a faster time warp, and I don't think there's any information on that still. Like, I assume so because of the distances, but I don't think we have any information on warp speed.
That is a very good question, actually. So what? The fastest time warp right now, even let's say you wanted to send a craft to Elu, that's still quite a long time, isn't it? Obviously, we have conventional drives, but that takes a while. I can make myself a good couple of drinks during that.
Yeah, and then finish them. And that's also a thing where modders have added a few zeros to, for sure, warp speeds. Although we've increased those enough and the solar system becomes spaghetti for a little bit. I have noticed that. But I think we'll see faster, stable warp speed.
I think we will,
Yeah. Something they did mention was that the telescope thing we were talking about last episode, Mark, where you have to observe a body before it's discovered.
Yeah, that's confirmed. I'm super excited about that. That's something I really like.
I have seen absolutely no information about it.
I mean, the person on the YouTube video said it was confirmed, and
I know.
It's to trust everyone on YouTube.
Okay, we'll trust everyone.
You trust everything you see on the internet.
Right. Yeah, sounds good. If it is actually there, it is true, then I am very excited for that. But I think I cut you off, Linx.
Yeah, how is that how is that going to work? Can you not visit the planet until you discover it? Will it not show up on the map?
I don't think it shows up on the map. I think that's what they're kind of leaning towards. I don't know if you've seen the mod on KSP, but there's a mod that
called research
bodies until you find them with the telescope.
I have seen that, actually. Yeah, I have.
Yeah.
I think that would work really well with other stars. Like, you have to actually observe and study the star, which would just be putting a telescope up and clicking buttons maybe, to be able to know how to get there once you have the tech to get there. I don't know if it would make sense for planets inside the Kerbal system because they're so relatively close and you could propulsively go there normally, but for other stars I think the telescope thing does make a lot of sense.
But I think you learn a bit out of it.
True. You could get extra science or something.
You have to get some science from it, I think.
It could be interesting, although I still have not seen any official information on it. I'm looking forward to hearing something about it, at least.
I think they could have a lot of fun with this. For example, depending on how difficult it is to find something new, let's say there's a planet or an asteroid in a ridiculous polar orbit around the star for some Easter egg reasons.
Right.
That's going to be hard to find.
Yeah.
It would be a little.
But let's say someone did find it and they're like, hang on, why is this here? Do you remember the magic boulder, which was in a polar orbit around Juno a long time ago?
I actually don't remember.
You don't remember that? Oh, I was fascinated by that.
What? Was it in polar orbit?
I believe it was in a polar orbit around Juno, and whenever you tried to land on it, it would break your craft or something. It was broken, so I think that's why they removed it. But you know the asteroids we have right now?
Yeah.
Sometimes I think shiny ones can spawn. They've got like a funny color to them, something like that.
Right, I have heard of this. I think I don't know if they're referred to in game as this, but I've heard a streamer that I watch refer to them as magic asteroids.
And that's why. It's because I believe it's a retexture of the magic boulder. It's
so
either the same texture or it's a different color because the magic boulder was green.
Okay, yeah. I think I may have seen one from him capturing them around like Min-Miss or something, but it did have like it wasn't fully green, but it had this like green around it, and it seemed to have like sort of a green like glow to it almost, kind of. I don't remember. But yeah. So they still have it in the game. They just spawn as asteroids. I'm scared to touch them.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how you're planning on doing this, but if I put a picture into our chat that we've got, I don't know if you could flash it up on the screen.
We can edit it in, and
for those of you listening on YouTube, we'll throw that pictures up there when it's relevant.
There you go. This is what it looked like.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was trying to describe and failed at. Yeah, that's a. Is there? I think that is there more ore available at Magic Asteroids, or is it just visual?
There must be some sort of gameplay aspect around it.
There's got to be.
That is certainly like I love the look of that.
It's good, isn't it?
I want a fleet of them in orbit.
Yeah.
Bombardment.
I want your entire stock.
Yep. I want your entire stock. Yeah.
To segue onto that real quick, you know how I've been working on Parallax and mods like that?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So something which I worked on for a little bit before putting aside was I was working on an asteroid portion of it, applying the Parallax shader to different asteroids.
Yeah.
And I was inspired by these like magic types of boulders that I did something similar. Now, have either of you seen The Expanse?
Of course. I mean, I
haven't.
Mark hasn't. I have watched it religiously.
Okay, Mark, you have to watch The Expanse.
Okay.
First of all. But there's something in The Expanse called the protomolecule, which is like a blue sort of alien thing. I'm not gonna reveal too much.
Yeah, no spoilers in case other of you haven't, but yeah.
I made an asteroid that was inspired by that, and it glows blue, and it's got some cool particles around it.
Yo.
And I'm really annoyed that I put it to the side because that would be so cool to show everyone. But
Is that not been released yet or anything?
I do have a picture of it, but no, it's not been released.
Ooh, okay.
I got about halfway through
exclusive information here. Yes.
Yeah.
I would love to see that. I would love to have that be part of the game.
I'll find a picture whilst we talk.
Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely. If you want to throw that up there, we'll have shown that on the screen here. Sweet.
Of course.
All right. Well, that's pretty much just some of the information that we wanted to like double down on, or just like remove some of the speculation with some factual information about from last episode. But I did have some questions for you. Actually, Mark, did you have the question that you said you wanted to start asking for every guest?
So I had a couple questions. I forgot most of which because I didn't write them down like an utter fool.
It's all right.
But,
Okay.
So I had the question, were you ever approached at any time by KSP2 for like any sort of like information or like as a like work experience as a modder? I know that they've hired a bunch of modders, so I'm not sure that they asked you about anything.
I'm really glad you brought this up actually, because man, I wish. and if any of them are listening right now, you know where to find me.
No. Games
but no, I've not. Nothing from them, unfortunately.
You got to show them your asteroid.
That's sad, but I just had to ask because I think it'd be so cool, like to find out, like, you know, yeah, I've secretly been working for KSP this whole time.
Right, that would have been incredible.
Well, if they had approached and I had to sign an NDA, well, you'd never know, but I haven't been asked to sign an NDA. But
or maybe that's exactly what they had you say.
Oh, maybe.
Oh.
But I think there are far more talented people working there already than I am, because I just do it as a hobby. You know, I don't have any actual professional, skills in it. So I think what they've got right now is better than anything that I could do.
Well, regardless, I'll be looking forward to the mods you make in the next game too.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
Do you
absolutely.
have anything? Do you have anything planned? Like, have you thought of things that you'd like to add to the game?
Again, that's a good question, because until I see the game or like get a chance to play it, I'm not really sure, because a lot of the time modders see what could be improved and then they build upon that.
Yeah.
But we've not actually got our hands on it yet. Something I did think about though was, because I'm doing parallax, which is basically a tessellation shader to add displacement to the terrain and make it look cool. If you played No Man's Sky and looked at the ground, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So I don't think they're doing that in KSP2, but to get something like that would be cool. But there's a few technical reasons why I think that might not be possible anymore, which I can get into if you want, but I don't know how well I'm going to be able to explain
go ahead,
it.
dude. Hey, give us your expert opinion working with the ground shaders and such.
Yes,
Okay,
absolutely.
so, all right. I do apologise in advance if this is lengthy, but I'll do my
We're
best.
nerding out. Let's go.
Yeah. So in KSP1, there's the PQS system, which is, I believe it stands for Procedural Quad Sphere, and it's how the terrain is. It starts off as a cube, like a cube that's been displaced into a sphere. So the planet has 6 sides, and then that's all subdivided as you get closer. So when let's say you're at the Kerbal Space Center, you don't need to render the back of the planet.
Yeah.
So you can have that at a low detail, and the detail increases the closer to the craft. So similarly to how chunks work in Minecraft, that's kind of how the terrain works in Kerbal. So you've got like a patch, which is called a quad, and that has its own properties and stuff like that. So what I do with Parallax is, when a quad is built, I apply my shader and all of that, using like its position, how big it is, what level of subdivision it is, and all that. In KSP2, I believe they've got the same person who developed the original system and gotten to improve upon it. So now they're using a compute shader to do pretty much the same stuff, which is all on the graphics card instead, which means I can't access its properties or how it's built, its position, anything like that. So that means I might not be able to do the same sort of stuff that I do now in KSP2, which is something I'm worried about, and it could pose a challenge for other mod makers as well.
That's unfortunate, but
True.
let's hopefully be wrong.
Yeah,
Because it'd be great. It'd be great to see Parallax and everything return to KSP2, because I personally really enjoy it, even though sometimes it can be a little like glitchy and such. You go through the floor a bit because it's not quite the same height map, because it's all just looks. It isn't like actively there.
That's true. I do have something for that in the next update, hopefully. Fingers crossed.
Ooh.
But obviously, you might have seen the foliage stuff that I'm doing.
Yes, the
Yes,
absolute
the
wizardry.
Yeah, with the trees and the grass.
I'm gonna throw a picture up for that too.
Oh yeah, I've committed too much to that to be able to just put out a small update, because I'm not the most organised. So I started this, and then I realised, there's a few bugs that I need to deal with. Oh wait, it's too far gone now. So
Too far.
yeah,
Just
Well,
the
well,
dense
there's a bit of waiting.
foliage is just something that none of us are used to seeing in Kerbal Space Program. We're used to seeing just sort of mostly flat terrain that's colored. So the stuff that you've been doing is just mind-blowing.
Yeah,
I'm really
honestly.
excited. I'm so excited to be able to show it to you
excited
guys. Thank you. There's a lot of work that's gone into it, and during exam season, well, it's not my top priority, but
Right.
I've still made it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Your questions, Trent.
Oh, yeah. I actually wanted to inquire on the current status. Oh, that picture you sent. Oh my gosh. The current status on Parallax and Beyond Home. We kind of got the insight on Parallax, but has Beyond Home sort of hit the wayside as well with everything else going on at the moment?
A little bit.
A little bit.
There's a bit of detail on this. I did start a rework of Beyond Home. I'll send some pictures of that after, but they're going to be too difficult for me to find right now.
That's perfectly fine.
I started reworking some of the planets and improving them, bringing them up to date, because there's some other planet mods that I've looked at and seen, wow, they look quite good. And I want to bring my planets up to that sort of level.
Right.
I managed to get about a quarter of the way through that, and then I put it to the side. But there is some good news for the mod, is that someone called Ballistic Fox, I believe is in your Discord.
Yes, I'm familiar.
Yes.
He's been going through, or she, I don't know, but they've been going through and they've been bringing the Parallax configs up to date, which is one of the biggest gripes that people have with the mod, is that the version of Parallax that Beyond Home uses is like 1.0.1, so it's terribly optimized.
It's an older version.
It runs pretty bad, yeah. So they've done a really good job of bringing those configs up to date. Same with the Scatterer configs and Eve configs as well. And I look forward to releasing that as an official update, hopefully with their permission. So there is a light at the end of the tunnel for Beyond Home.
That's awesome.
That's awesome to hear.
Do you guys play it much?
I played a little.
We played on stream.
Yeah, absolutely. I haven't gone too far outside of the road system, but I've traveled to some of the nearby planets. I think the furthest we went was so it's the planet that is a gas giant, but it doesn't blow you up. It might have been Gateway. This concept of a planet in KSP is actually really, really cool. I think what you had set up was the atmospheric density at sea level was the same as the density of like the water, so it was just a seamless blend into it, and you had to like sort of swim down to get any further down. I think I've seen videos of you playing through Beyond Home and you experiencing that. And it was just, I think that might be one of my favorite planets I've experienced in Beyond Home so far, but I haven't gotten too far. I haven't gone to the old Kerbal star yet, even. Because I was playing with a whole bunch of like Kerbalism stuff. I didn't have communications out there.
So that one that you talk about is Gateway. Now,
cool.
There is another one called Hydrus. It's yellow, which looks like a gas giant, but it's got a surface. It's got floating islands and stuff. But with Gateway, some people had a few issues with what you said, actually. You know how I transitioned from, dense air into water, liquid or whatever. So you're right. The point of that was to simulate just what happens inside a gas giant. But then I got a load of comments being like, that's not a gas giant. It's just a planet. And I was like, well, I'm doing my best, okay?
Right. I really liked that.
There's a few limitations.
It added a really like unique thing, a unique type of vehicle to bring out to another planet, where you send in a submarine that'll eventually like float down into the water just naturally, which is just an incredible way to experience the game.
I don't like it how you just go into Joule's atmosphere and explode. I'd rather you have something to do down there. It's like an alien new world.
Yes. I wonder if something like that's going to be a thing in KSP2. I don't know.
I'm excited to find out. Yeah.
I am too. Something else I'm excited about in KSP2, something that is just inherent to gas giants, even just really thick atmospheric worlds, take Venus for example, is a lot of wind, like lateral like walls of wind that are just blowing these storms across the surface, like take Jupiter, that's always swirling and stuff like that. Like I don't know if any of that sort of like I guess any sort of weather system at all is going to be implemented into KSP2, but I feel like it is something that I've wanted since I started playing the game. Like everything from a light breeze to having to wait for a thunderstorm to pass because the weather is too much to launch, to trying to go into let's say Eve, and you get low enough and the wind just blows you to the side, and you could send a glider there that would fly forever, basically. That's kind of stuff that I think I've internally wanted in Kerbal Space Program. That's a segue towards someone who asked on the KSP forums, VL3D. They wanted to know your take on any sort of possibility of weather. We haven't heard anything. This is just entirely a desire I have of weather systems in KSP, as well as modern Unity graphical features. That was their question to you. Yeah, okay. They wanted to know your take on those things.
All right. Okay, so this is pure speculation, is it?
Yeah, absolutely. There's been nothing from devs about weather in either game. There's a mod that adds some like wind, but I don't know if it's like random. I think it's just universal. You can set like a wind direction and speed, which is cool. Okay. Which means things like that could be maybe possible. But yeah, entirely speculation.
I would say that it's entirely possible. I mean, wind is just a force acting from a certain direction. It depends how detailed you want to make it. But I'd say wind is possible, but also I share your same excitement when it comes to systems like that, because it's like you have the option of not launching in a thunderstorm, but what if you did? And what are the challenges to overcome it? For example, if there's like a planet, like you said, Venus, or a planet that has constant thunderstorms, like there's a big gameplay like change when it comes to stuff like that with wind, thunderstorms, heat. That'd be so cool. And also graphically, seeing lightning going through the sky, hitting your ship, destroying parts. That'd be like interstellar music sort of thing.
Where the power goes out and you have to wait a few seconds for it to come on or something.
Yeah, stuff like random failures.
It just adds a whole other layer of immersion that I think, although it's not needed, would be just incredible for at least someone like me. I tend to really like realism type things, or I guess immersion type things. And weather's a huge deal with actual rocket launches. On the other hand, I could see an argument of not wanting weather because then you don't have to have any sort of delays for it. But I want to launch in the middle of a hurricane, like right through the eye. Like, let me do that. Like,
I mean,
let's just see what happens.
Yeah. I mean, just have a setting for it, honestly.
Yeah.
I think this is more of a love, not a love letter, a like desire, a letter, like a please do this letter to the modders, to the modding community that will eventually exist for KSP2. Can you make this? Please launch me in a hurricane, please.
I've got something to do.
Linx, this is for you.
Oh no, someone else do it, please.
I
might be studying astrophysics, but. Yeah, I might be doing astrophysics, but I don't want to have anything to do with physics, please.
Yeah,
the mathematics of that is probably insane.
That's interesting you bring that up, that you're doing astrophysics, because we've got Beardy doing aeronautics, and then we've got you doing astrophysics. So how is that? Like, can you explain a little bit about like what you learn in that class, like, to get people more interested in like STEM stuff?
Right.
I think it'd be interesting to get your thoughts and like what do you expect in those kind of classes?
Okay, so what actually got me into astrophysics and stuff was Kerbal. Originally, I wanted to go into video game development, and I kind of still do. When I graduate, I want to go into that sort of field, but using my physics knowledge. But before, I just wanted to go into like straight game dev, kind of naive, not knowing much about it. Then I played Kerbal for ages, and I was like, actually, space, the stars, craft, stuff like that would be fun. Now, I also went through like an aeronautics phase or aerospace phase, and then I realised that was all planes. So I was like, nah, I want to do space. So the sort of stuff that you can expect from doing something like astrophysics is you won't be doing anything space related until like your second or third year. I've just started doing it in my second year, And while the physics stuff I'm not really interested in, because a lot of it's particle physics, statistical physics, that's not nice. Mechanics is good.
Yeah.
The other stuff, the stuff that I really enjoy is learning about like star classification, how they're born, how they die, galaxies, planets. I've just recently done a course in planetary physics about how the planets have formed, and I've had to write a paper on how planets could have formed given like a sample. I gave a presentation about the TRAPPIST-1 system, which I'm sure you're both very aware with.
I've messed around with the TRAPPIST system actually in Universe Sandbox too.
Oh, is it in there?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Sweet.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I learned about the TRAPPIST system. I think it's fascinating. The James Webb Space Telescope's supposedly setting its sights on it soon.
Very excited for that. It's pretty much down to cool. It's cooled down to operational temperature. They're still just working out like what experiments will be running first and like who's going to be running them and when and stuff like that. There's a whole bunch of meetings right now, but it was very close to being ready.
Everyone wants to be the first people to use it. Yeah.
NASA, like, if you're listening, I'd love to take the first picture.
Can I play with your new camera?
Yeah. I'm a
point
good
it back at Earth.
photographer, I promise.
Oh, God. I would destroy it if we pointed at Earth. I wouldn't destroy it, but it would be bad.
But yeah, for people who want to go into physics or astrophysics or stuff like that, personally, I'm not a fan of the pure physics stuff. There's a lot of maths as well. It is hard. It's probably one of the hardest courses out there. It's stressful, but it's rewarding. It's very rewarding. Like the knowledge you get from it as well.
I'll just go directly into planet making in Kerbal.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the end goal. No,
Of course.
I'm kidding.
Yeah.
That's just a really
please.
cool side effect.
But it also develops like your problem solving abilities, and we do a programming course which I flew through because obviously I already do that. But it's not quite about the content that you learn unless you want to go into like a research or physics field. It's how your like brain adapts to deal with different problems. So it can be applied to a lot of different jobs where you wouldn't necessarily think that you'd need someone who does that field, if you get what I mean.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I'm only in my second year and I might have a very naive take on it. Like when I can't really say more until I graduate. So, but those are my 2 cents on the matter.
Well, very cool. That's a very good insight on what it's like. That I definitely have an interest in that. Just the funds required to be in like a college here is it's a lot. It's definitely a leap. You have to pretty much, at least when you're in my position, know that you're going to be in debt for a while. And there's a lot of uncertainties with job markets and stuff, but like I don't want to get into all that kind of stuff. But I have a huge interest in going to school for some of the similar things, so that's really cool to hear about.
Yeah, I mean, I left the student loans part out of it because that's never fun.
Yeah. Let's just it kind of peaked out. Let's just brush that under the rug again. We don't.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for bringing it up.
Trent in the future, like editing Trent, just put like a stock image of like a janitor sweeping it away.
Yeah. Well, on planets forming and basically the life cycle of a planet forming and maybe being destroyed or it sticking around, that brings us to the topic of like what kind of cool planets do we think that we're gonna be able to explore in KSP2, or just like what planets might be out there? Because in KSP2 we have seen insights on some brand new planets like that we've never seen before, like Rask and Rusk, that are a binary system very close together and they seem to be almost tearing each other apart. There's Gordama, I think, which is like supposed to be an early like Kerbin, like early Earth, like in its early days of development, where it's still in a heavy bombardment.
Hello.
No, in a who now? Well, there's like I forget some of the other planets that we see. There's like obviously some with rings and stuff, but something that I've done a lot, even though I'm not a DM for D&D, I've done a lot of like mental like world building that is sort of just bits and pieces. And because of my love of space and Kerbal Space Program, I've definitely theorized a lot about different like weird planets that could exist. And that's obviously something that, I mean, you've had to do to actually make planets. But
Of course.
Are there any planets that are just like floating around in your head that you just think would be just really, really cool, just as a planet, not even in Kerbal Space Program, that maybe you haven't put into a planet pack or anything yet?
There are actually. There's two that come to mind.
Sweet.
Obviously, the first one being Rask and Rusk. When I saw that, like my inner fanboy was like going off. You know?
Yeah.
I was really, really happy when I saw that. I'm excited to see how it plays as well, because how the craft moves around in that binary system.
Right. I really want to know if you can do a figure 8 orbit around that planet, or that group of planets, I should
what
say.
I mean,
That
yeah.
would be awesome.
Imagine orbiting 2 planets at once.
Yeah. Just
And,
an oval of an orbit or something. I don't know. It'd be weird. It'd be wavy.
So that was the first thing, which is nice to see. But something else, it's not a planet actually, and I've seen it in Kerbal KSP1 with the various different mods. But
Yeah.
I really want to see a black hole system,
Ooh,
Oh, yeah.
yes.
That would be awesome.
especially one where it's feeding on a star, so it's got the whole accretion disk as well.
Yes.
That would be so cool.
I don't think the KSP2 devs have talked about what types of stars that we'll be able to encounter, have they?
No, they've
They
not.
have been tight-lipped about that. Okay.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot of different star types out there. I wonder if we're gonna see different non-sun type stars. Like red dwarfs are probably the most common stars out there. I'm almost certain that we're gonna have a red dwarf star in the game. But like, what about like a pulsar, or a quasar, or a black hole, like you mentioned? Like, that's not out of the realm of possibility.
In the most recent video, as of obviously the time of us recording this, they said that outside of the Kerbal system, is how they put it, I think.
Yeah.
They wanted to get more alien with things, and this was whilst they were in reference to planets, but they've been very, very sealed about the types of stars. I don't think, other than from like a very far away distance, I don't think we've seen any of them, which would be interesting because we might get stuff like a brown dwarf, some main sequence stars, or some exotic stars like a pulsar, black hole. I'm really looking forward to seeing what they do.
Yeah. All right, this is a job for the people listening. Scour every single video and blog for any sort of picture that might have a new star somewhere in the background. I want information for us all.
When you find it,
Depends what you mean by new star.
New star.
Because, I
Any
mean,
star is a new star, I guess.
Yeah,
It's not
exactly.
Kerbal.
Any star's a new star.
New type of star.
yeah, something we've not seen before in the game.
Yeah.
But I don't know what they've got planned.
Yeah, I have no idea. That's something I didn't think about until this exact moment. Huh. Well, on to new planets and stuff again. Like, obviously, there's some really, really unique planets that we know from sci-fi. Like, take Interstellar, for example. There is a just ocean world that it's shallow. It's maybe a few feet deep, save for a massive wave that's going around the whole planet.
Is that Miller's planet? Or am I thinking of the wrong one?
It might be Miller's Planet. I forget. It's been a little while since I've seen that movie, despite it being like my favorite movie. But names elude me all the time. It was one where they didn't discover anyone alive.
Yeah, that one is Miller's Planet. I've just searched it.
Oh yeah, and then something else with that. The gravity on that world, basically because of being so close to a black star, or black hole, I should say, was longer. Like every second was like I forget. They were spending
7
years They were spending years on that planet, even though only being there for less than an hour, I think. Which was just insane.
Time dilation was
time dilation. That'd be a way to get around long warp times. Just go close.
Or just wait on the planet.
Yeah. I don't think that they'll be modeling time dilation in the game, though. I think that's a bit out of the scope of the game.
Oh, yeah, maybe.
At launch, we'll say. Modders, your work's cut out for you. Let's just say that.
Sounds like a nightmare.
Yeah. But there's another planet in Interstellar. Sorry, I don't want to derail, because why?
Oh, because time warping, at least in KSP1, I don't see that they would do it any differently, but it's like a constant. So you time warp her 10 times, it's 10 times for every craft anywhere.
Yeah. Which would just be really weird to try to procedurally time warp at different speeds. Although, it is just, changing the numbers of them, but still it'd be weird.
If they did it per craft, it might be possible.
Now I'm imagining a frozen solar system where only your craft is moving. KSP, but all of the planets are frozen.
Anyway, hang on. Video idea.
Oh.
Sorry, what were you saying before I interrupted you?
I was just going to insert another planet from the Interstellar movie where it was basically frozen, and they landed on the or there was frozen clouds they plowed through. That's what it was. But I don't remember if they landed on like a layer of clouds and that's what it was or something. But I don't think so. I think it was rockier than that.
I think that was Dr. Mann's planet, and I think, spoilers for Interstellar, by the way, but yeah. I think he lied about there being a surface, and that was the actual surface, or whether that was a cloud, I'm not too sure.
I don't recall, but yeah, something along those lines.
That was very interesting. That's a good twist as well. I liked that. But seeing just floating islands on a planet, that would be cool to see.
That would be like Pandora from Avatar.
Yeah.
That with floating islands. We've seen that before in KSP1 Beyond Home.
Well, that is a very mock-up version.
It is, but it was still just like incredible to see. I actually went in blind with the Beyond Home planet pack, and when I just sent a probe there to like float through the atmosphere, and I just like looked around and was like, wait a minute. Why are there floating? There's floating rocks. All right. And then I sent a rover there.
I don't remember if I was like the person who got you in it, because I sent the picture of my probe going past Hydrus with all like the graphics mods and stuff, and you're like, oh my god, that looks beautiful. I don't remember if I was the one who finally convinced you to start playing around with it or not.
I don't recall, but I'm glad I did, and I definitely probably will in the future. Yeah. There's just been a lot on my plate.
That's really nice.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. That's really nice that like my mods have had an impact. Like I don't typically get to speak to that many people who say that they've played my mods and they've really enjoyed it, apart from the odd comment every now and then. But to actually speak with like two of you who've experienced it, like blind as well, and having your first impressions and stuff, that's mad. That's why I do it, is because I really like hearing the feedback. I like just improving on the gameplay and seeing what people have to think.
Absolutely. Yeah. I guarantee that you're not alone. There's probably a lot of people that are going to be listening to the podcast that are well aware of your mod, and if they're not, they're going to be.
There we will, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's crazy. I think that's why a lot of us do it. I can't speak for everyone, but just being able to put something out there, and it's mad respect to the developers for letting us do this as well. Because if they wanted to, they could have just been like, "Yeah, no, you can't mod this."
Yeah, exactly. That's going to be a huge thing.
The game.
Yeah. I mean, how often do you guys play with 0 mods installed? Probably never, right?
Only if a challenge demands 0 mods installed.
Right, like the drunk KSP stream.
Or like some of the recent ones that Kerbal Space Program has officially sent out, like... what was the last one? It was doing a Nova Sea lander.
Yeah,
that one demanded absolutely no mods.
Landing. Yeah.
Was it fun? It was fun. It's like a stock KSP definitely still has a charm to it. I enjoy that experience, but at the same time, I primarily play with a lot of mods.
You've brought up something very interesting, actually.
Oh,
Did you mentioned the Kerbal Space Program challenges that they've put out?
yes.
Were you aware of the Dart challenge that came out?
I was. I participated in that one as well.
That was really nice to work on. I was a part of like a couple people, Galileo being one of them. He made the JNSQ planet pack.
Yeah.
And that was wonderful to work on. They reached out to us on the forums with a bunch of other people, I think, and they asked us to create this mock-up of this system. The two asteroids, Didymos and Dimorphos, I think.
Yeah. Those are the two.
Yeah, that was wonderful to work on, and it's just modding in general is just really fun. But,
I didn't realize that you worked on it.
Aware of that?
Yeah. Well, what part did you work on, or were you just one of the people that was working together as like a group to get the thing up and running?
So they reached out to Galileo, and we're in like a little Discord together. So there's a couple more of us, Jade of Mar being one of them.
Cool.
I can't name everybody.
That's okay.
But the bit that I worked on was that the two asteroids use parallax. So I was tasked with making the materials for them, making the shader work for both of them. And because Dimorphos is technically a part, it's like a regular asteroid.
Yeah.
I had to make it work with the asteroid, which is why I started working on the asteroids after that. But
that's what got you into making them cool.
Yeah. So that was
I did not know that. That was a fantastic little challenge to do. It's kind of cool. You can just sort of outside of the challenge grab the two asteroids and slap them in your game just to have them there too.
Yeah.
Very cool. I did not know that. That's awesome.
I know that we talked a little bit about star systems, so I'm not sure. You said TRAPPIST was one of your favorites?
Yeah, TRAPPIST because of its like potential habitability, I suppose.
Right. Well, there's quite a few like star systems that we could make. We could explore in interstellar space, like Alpha Centauri. Of course, everyone talks about Alpha Centauri.
Right. It's the closest.
Right. I don't know if you've heard anything about the Vega system, which could be promising. We don't know too much about it, but it's something that I've looked at a bit.
I actually don't know anything about the Vega system.
Nothing. No.
Teach us, Mark.
The most I know about it.
So
the most I know. Sorry.
What do you know about it? I want to know what you know about it.
Well, the most I know about it is I've visited it in Elite Dangerous, and that's it. That's all I've heard of it.
Right. Well, it's in the northern constellation. It's the brightest star there. It's I don't know what class of star it is. I just know it's a blue star. But someone in 1997 they hypothesized that there could be a planet around it because there's a debris disk around it. The Spitzer Space Telescope actually found the dust ring around it. So
that's awesome.
There could be a habitable planet there, but it's cool to speculate about that. And it's also quite close. It's 25 light years away. So it's just another place that we could look into inhabiting.
Yeah, that's got to be within like the 100 closest stars to us, I believe. I don't quote me on that. I don't know them all. I do know that there's like 50 within 15 light years, which there's a lot. There's a lot of stars. There's probably a handful of them that have observed planets that isn't really talked about all that much. And I don't actually know that much about them. I'm probably going to be doing more research on them. But there's stars in here that I have not heard of that have like 5 observed planets, which is super cool.
There's also Epsilon Adrani.
Yeah, Epsilon Eridani. That is one of them.
Eridani. Sorry,
yeah.
I can't spell.
Which that one I think is considered to be the most sun-like star near us that exists. Near us is relative to like within like 20 light years or so. I don't know exactly. But it is really interesting. I think it's also gotten observed dust disk.
Yeah,
that is difficult to say.
That's a hard one to say.
Yeah. I think it's still sort of controversial about what planets or planet might be there, but I think that there are observed
there's at
dips
least
in
one
light?
observed planet.
At least one, yeah. Potentially in the habitational zone of a star, possibly too. But like, there's just so many stars out there and so many planets out there that pretty much anything that we could come up with is likely to exist. Like, I just watched the celestial architecting video at work because it was really slow today, and I think Tom was talking about like planets that are like raining diamonds and stuff like that. Just the realms of possibility are pretty much endless in the world of physics, and there's some crazy planets out there. This is really cool to think about.
Have either of you guys seen anything by Melody Sheep?
Melody Sheep, I have listened to a few of their mixes. They usually have like hour-long, like chill, like EMD sort of, or EDM, sorry, music.
No.
Yeah.
You might have been thinking of someone else, but
Oh,
Melody
okay.
Sheep, they do like CGI sort of things where they show off like potential worlds, alien civilizations. They have a big series on stuff like types of civilization, like type 1, 2, 3, and all sorts of stuff about the Fermi paradox. And the amount of just alien worlds that they're hypothesizing is just incredible. Like the amount of ideas that people can have, they probably do exist out there, maybe.
Yeah.
Like, different forms of alien communication was a big topic, and it was a case of, well, maybe you know Dyson spheres, like big structures around the stars.
Right.
So a form of communication, very basic communication, but very difficult to build across light years, would be to build sunshades around the stars, and there's gaps in the shades which let light through, and you can communicate like a set Morse code pattern, for example,
Over light years of time. Yeah.
Yeah, and the star just blinks out a message.
I mean, if you have the resources to build something that large, that is probably a really, really, I guess, good. The words are escaping me, but that is a good way of communicating that far, because otherwise, sort of other techno signatures of your existence or any sort of form of communication that far is probably not going to be easily seen or recognized universally, because you don't know who you might be talking to.
Exactly, and it's probably, let's say you wanted to broadcast, that you are a civilization, you want people to come to you and find you. It's probably the easiest thing to do is if someone looks up in the sky and sees a star blinking in and out, it's gonna draw a bit of attention.
It's
Yeah,
either going to
absolutely.
be a pulsar star or a Morse code message. And if you zoom in enough, you find it's a main sequence star. And you're like, oh, wait, that's not a pulsar. So it's got to be something.
Yeah,
It's
that's
stuff like that. It's
fascinating.
just fascinating.
Makes me wonder what sort of things humans will be up to. I struggle to really conceptualize humanity building something like a Dyson sphere, but we're in a very primitive age of being out in space, so it's something to dream about for sure.
Definitely. I mean, it would be lovely to wake up one day, see the finished construction of a Dyson sphere or something. It'd just be a
Right.
huge achievement for humanity, right? But I don't think any of us are going to be alive, anywhere near the
Oh,
time.
absolutely not. Unless
Exactly.
they can freeze our bodies and we can pay them to just like wake up when it's done.
Yeah, sightseeing.
Yeah. A whole like tourist program where you can go and get your body frozen, and should the future be okay, you can wake up at certain points in time.
The problem is, though, all your friends and family. unless they went in as well. Like,
yeah,
that's it.
There's a lot of problems like that with an absolutely no guarantee of the future, likely death. But you know,
we can make a pact if cryogenic, you know, freezing is a thing in our lifetime. All three of us will step into a cryogenic chamber together and wake up at the same time. There we go.
Let's do it. I will say, if cryogenic stuff is a thing, TM, that would make interstellar travel a lot easier. I think that's what we see in like sci-fi movies that don't just warp faster than light, is people go into the big sleep for a long period of time.
They have that in Halo. They have that in Halo as well.
Yeah, I think they also do that in Interstellar, don't they? Yeah, they do. That was like a huge thing, because they would send out like a pioneer to a planet to scope it out, and then they would basically transmit their findings and then go into their like cryo chamber to basically just sleep, and then they would, like, after transmitting that this planet is safe or this planet is not safe, either like a rescue team would come wake them up or new colonists would come wake them up. But of course we saw how that worked out in Interstellar.
Oh yeah. An interesting thing that I've seen is, let's say you've got a star that you want to get to. It's like a 1,000-year journey, and there's like the means of, you know, surviving that journey, either a generational ship or just freezing. It's like, the big question is, would you rather be on the first or the second ship? Because in the time it takes the first ship to travel 1,000 years, what if engine technology is so good that the second ship arrived before?
Definitely the second ship.
Exactly. There's a chance that people will already be there by the time you arrive if you're on that first ship.
Yeah,
right.
Which would just be so weird, because at that point you really don't have any communication back home, unless you can send an interstellar probe back. Which actually, I didn't think about that. That'd be interesting. Have like a small interstellar probe that can go faster than you or something, and you can just like send it back to Earth and then send it back to send like a message halfway through your journey or something like that. But you arriving and like the second ship already being there, it would just kind of be mind-boggling. We're already here. What?
And they've only been traveling for what, a year, because of such advancements in technology.
Right.
Like, wouldn't you feel like scammed almost?
I would probably revolt.
Yeah.
It'd
like
be the beginning of Star Wars
for 1,000 years.
It'd be the first extrasolar war, a revolution. Generations of our lives spent out here, and you just, you know, took a small walk and got here.
Yep. And everyone you know and love is gone, apart from, you know, the other people who were there before you.
Right. It's an interesting, crazy, weird concept.
Trent. I see you mousing over something in the forum. Would you like to?
Am I mousing over something?
About that?
I don't even have that tab open right now.
It says it's open for me.
Ah, well,
you're still on it.
Oh, I see. I guess, you know, that works as a good segue to my favorite segment of our show, the weird and wacky of the spacefaring world. And boy, do I have I've got something weird and wacky to show you. It's sort of along the lines of traversing a new world, I guess, in the time. It's called the lunar worm. And I don't know if you've heard of it, Linx, but this is something that I think is what inspired the segment of the weird and wacky. It's just I found it one day.
Yep.
The lunar worm.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
It's this just massive vehicle of sorts, right? It's an American manned lunar rover, and this was a study in 1966 of something that has a payload of about 1,000 pounds. It weighs about 3,000 pounds, 10 meters high, 2 meters wide, it looks like, and the length is probably as long as you want it. It's just this massive worm that's sort of like literally inchworms across the surface. It was apparently has a crew
5
size
miles
of
per hour.
5 miles per hour. Does it say? Yeah.
Yep.
This ridiculous looking thing would just inch its way across the surface. I believe about crew size of 2. This study was. There was also like a small unmanned vehicle that looks to have like 2 of these on the side, like instead of wheels. But just this I don't know exactly how far it got from study, but obviously it never came to fruition. But at the same time, I am just fascinated by this. It feels like I don't know, some like blow up kids playground thing that they just have on the surface of the moon inching around.
I'm focused on the part. I'm specifically drawn to this part where it says it is capable of moderate to high speed. Now I don't know about you, but if I was standing on the moon and I saw this thing coming towards me at like
a moderate
I know it's
to
just
high
5 miles an
speed.
hour, but a high speed. I don't know how I'd feel.
I think I would get back in the ascent vehicle and leave.
I would nope out of there.
Maybe
It's
that
an
was a
alien,
tactic.
It's an alien.
I wonder why this exists. Somebody along the lines of making this decided that wheels were just a no-go. It's not like this is early before wheels or something like that. No, this is 1966. It wasn't long after that then we actually built a car that unfolded on the lunar surface from the Apollo missions. But who thought that just wheels were not a good idea and we should inchworm the whole thing
I think
to high speed?
I think the issue of like wheels like cracking and breaking on the surface of the moon, because that was an issue. Like they had to add the cages to the wheels, because it would break. The tires would pop and stuff if they were made out of rubber.
But
Right.
I mean,
Well, the wheels that were on the rover were pretty much equivalent to piano wire that were strung up.
Right. That's what I was saying, that they needed to do piano wire, and such.
but what about the friction of this sliding along the ground? Surely that's more than a wheel.
Right.
You know,
right. And this comes before like them figuring out that they need piano wire, I guess. I don't know.
I don't know.
I'm trying to be a devil's advocate here.
I know what you mean.
It would sort of travel like a wave. It's flexible material that is on the bottom able to like I said, like sort of inchworm across the surface. But I feel like that has more dangers involved with something going wrong than with the lunar rovers we ended up with. And all I gotta say is I'm glad we went with piano wire and not a massive like maggot looking thing on the surface of the moon.
Me too.
Yeah,
This is inflatable, isn't it? From what
I
reading.
believe it is basically inflatable. I don't know where the crew would go or anything. To be honest, I just don't.
It's just a big balloon.
It's just a big balloon, pretty much, yeah. But able
Surely
to
they
provide,
realised that.
using bellows to provide a cross-country mobility.
Wow.
Absolutely fascinating.
That is strange.
Sure is. Well, there were some other things that I think we wanted to talk about a little bit. When you mentioned Elite Dangerous before, that's a game that Mark and I are pretty familiar with. Something
Yes.
that goes along with like the destinations of going to new planets and new experiences and stuff in KSP2 and other stars. Something that was shown to us is how they are doing the rings around certain planets in KSP2. And I couldn't help but strike a similarity between when you actually, it showed the camera zooming into a rings and like physical like objects, like physical like asteroids, I guess, or they're not actually called that, but celestial like object, rocks and stuff and dust floating around in these rings. It wasn't just a flat texture. And it sort of looked the same as when you go to rings to mine or fight or whatever in Elite Dangerous, when you like are flying around and it looks like a flat texture, but then you fly into the rings and it pulls you out of warp and you're just surrounded by massive rocks all around you. And it seems like Kerbal Space Program 2 is going to have a similar thing.
Wait, we've seen that? They've showed that?
We have, yes, absolutely.
Oh,
it was in a...
Here, I'll send you a picture, Links.
Okay, yeah, absolutely.
Cheers.
But that is something that it looks very similar, and something I am very looking forward to trying is to build a ring station. Kind of like kind of like things that you would do in Elite Dangerous, where you'd go mine and then go out to another station. Well, if I could build a like fuel depot off the rings and have mining happening, like I want to do that. That's one of the first things that I want to attempt to do in KSP2.
That would be cool. I wonder if you can collide with the stuff in the rings.
I see. That would be required to do the mining, so I kind of hope so. I almost think so. I almost think so. Like a lot of the terrain work they've been doing, it seems to be along the lines of it being like a more realistic, like bumpy surface. So there's a whole bunch of like rock fields and stuff on the moon, for instance. And they mentioned certain areas being more difficult to traverse than others, depending on how hard they want the planet to be, which makes me think that if all of that exists and all of that's going to be a different thing where you can bump into stuff on the terrain, that these rings you would have to be really careful flying through because you might hit something.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose I'm just too used to being able to just drive through a rock or something.
Right.
KSP1.
I think we're not going to have that luxury.
No, and I'm living for it. I'm so excited.
That's something I want. It's just another layer adding to the immersion that we're probably going to get in the next game. I wish it existed right now. Please release it, devs, but only when you're ready.
Yeah.
I'm just excited.
I mean, everyone who's been playing a planet mod for so long with rings is going to try and time warp or, fly through the rings now, and they're going to be like, oh, what's happened to my craft? It's like, oh.
It just broke. The game is broken.
It makes me wonder if warp collisions are going to be a thing. Because that's something that's not in Kerbal Space Program 1. Like you've got something that's sort of like stuck to your vessel. You can just hit warp once and then wait for it to like basically phase through the vessel until they're not touching anymore. And then you come out of warp and they're free. And you can, like, if you're in time warp, just phase through another object without hitting it. Because it's on rails.
That comes in so much use.
I know it does, but...
That's so useful.
This is something they haven't talked about at all in KSP2, but I wonder if warp collisions are going to be a thing. Otherwise, you could just warp through the rings, no problem.
Oh, wow. I've just seen the pictures. Wow. Yeah, that is good.
Yeah, and I would love to just float around mining those things.
Yeah. I need to find my my minerals and stuff to build a little base on one of the asteroids. That'd be cool. Little launch pad.
Right. My sense of scale is just completely off looking at this. I have no idea how large those are.
Probably about like 1 kilometer to 5 kilometers in diameter.
You think they're that big? They could be, although at the same time they look like they could be like maybe a few hundred meters across. I guess we won't know until we go there.
I mean, that's the thing about like little rocks in the rings, right? They vary so much in size. Some of them can be classified as moons. Some of them can be classified as dust.
Right.
And pebbles.
There are some really, really small ones and then some massive ones. So
yeah,
I'm comparing it to the asteroid system we've got right now.
Right. So maybe the whole class system exists for objects in the ring. Obviously, I don't think you're going to be able to track them like you could asteroids. I think they're just going to be maybe procedurally generated, or maybe it'll be the same every time you get there. I kind of think with something like that, it'll be like a procedural thing, like they spawn in once you get close.
Yeah. Speaking of, and it's similar to the asteroids, but not quite. Have you both seen there was a specific video? I believe it was titled something like atmospheric scattering, but it also included clouds. Have you guys seen that?
I don't know if I have. Are you speaking of some of the new atmospheric cloud like updates? Is this separate from Eve? I think, right?
No. This is for KSP 2. It was
it's for
actually
KSP
quite
2.
difficult. Yeah. It was quite difficult for me to find the video. I'm looking for it now if I can, but it looks absolutely incredible.
I have
it's like
seen,
hidden away on their website.
I have seen some videos of like procedural clouds and stuff, which is just something that I desperately need in a Kerbal game, and I think that's being developed for KSP1, isn't it? Oh yes. So. This atmospheric scattering. I saw this on their Twitter. I thought it was hilarious that Kerbal they have showcasing is on a suborbital trajectory, just like that.
Oh right, I didn't realize it was on their Twitter. I saw it somewhere. It looks good. Those clouds.
It does. That is something that I wanted in Kerbal since like the first time I played it. I just wanted to grab a plane and just fly around the clouds.
Well, fun fact. I can probably say this because it's been posted on Reddit, but Blackrock is working on volumetric clouds right now.
Yes, that's who it was.
Yeah, we've seen a couple of teases of that going on.
Yeah, I've seen some on Reddit. He's updating things like a little bit, but they look absolutely fantastic. It just changes the whole like atmosphere of the game quite literally.
Yeah, I suppose. I'm really looking forward to being able to fly through them. They look so good.
They do. Me too. I want to punch holes through them with rockets, both up and down.
I mean, in the foliage screenshot that I put above.
Yeah, I saw that those clouds were up there, weren't they?
That was a Photoshop. It was a combination from his picture and mine because I don't have the clouds in my game yet, right? But I wanted to see what they would look like, and it just looks so good. It looks real, like a different game.
It does. This game is what 10, 11 years old at this point, right?
Yeah, it's going on 11 this year.
It reminds me of games like Arma, where it's pretty much just as old, and the modding community can just completely make a whole new game out of it, like visually. Like you're playing a good part of that Linx with Parallax and some of the new planet mods and just the clouds. It's just, I don't know, clouds seemed like they were an early mod for the game in general. I don't remember when they first popped about, but I've been playing since 0.24, maybe even before then. And I remember like just when I discovered that a cloud mod was in the game, I never played without it. Like it just didn't feel right without clouds.
Oh yeah. They've come a long way now. Was that Eve back then?
Yeah,
I know we've got Eve now. All right.
I think it was. Yeah. I don't think there was one before it that added clouds. Although correct me if I'm wrong. If anyone finds that out.
Nah, it was an early mod. It's around before I started playing. I think I played at like 1.0, which is kind of late to the party, I suppose, but early now.
Right, yeah. Relative now, it is very early on.
Considering we're on what, 1.12?
We're on 1.12.3, I think, but 1.12 is the final version we're ever gonna get of the first game.
Yeah,
it's
sad, but cool.
It's a melancholy thing. We're at an end, but it's a guaranteed new beginning.
Well, as a modder, it makes my life a lot easier.
Yeah, because you don't have to worry about any updates.
Yeah,
that's just a breath of fresh air for honestly everyone who plays Kerbal, because having to update the game and now all the mods don't work it's just a pain that we're all a little bit too used to.
Oh yeah,
but no longer,
certainly.
Until KSP2 rolls around.
Oh well, yeah.
Well, speaking of melancholy endings, I think we're gonna go ahead and wrap up this episode of the Kerbal Space Podcast. We have two segments we didn't really go over. The listener spotlight. It's only been a few days since we recorded the last one, and not much has happened since then. As for the Kerbal Space Challenge, ditto, it's only been a few days, so we still have the same challenge going on. And because I wasn't very descriptive with it last time, it is sort of a vague challenge, but the challenge is basically to just go somewhere new, do something you haven't done in the game. And we'll probably be looking at some submissions to that next time, or maybe even extend it another time. Who knows? And next
it might
episode,
be episode 4 until we look at that.
Right, exactly. It just depends. It depends, what y'all are up to, and if we get many submissions for it at all. For next episode, we'll be doing. It'll sort of be themed along colonies. I don't have a name for that one quite yet, but we have sort of a theme going on where the first one is interstellar travel, then interstellar destinations, and now we're starting to go into more things you can do once you're at your new home, basically. So colonies is going to be a huge thing in KSP2, and there's probably a lot to talk about there. So we'll be doing that next episode. But until then, Mark, Linx, thank you so much for joining us on the show.
It was amazing to have you on, Linx. I hope we have you again sometime.
Thank you. It was lovely. It was lovely to be a part of this.
You're cordially invited to be a co-host anytime you feel like it.
Oh, nice one. Yeah, that's awesome.
But yeah, that will be all from us, and we still don't know how to do an outro.
So yeah, we just have the music roll in sometime, and then we fade
there's some
out,
music.
And farewell,
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Until next time.
See ya.